What do you do when you need directions? You Google it. Random trivia? I'll also Google. Trying to win an argument at dinner? Definitely Google. But there are things in this world that even the internet hasn't figured out yet. Like why people are seeing more and more UFOs in Ireland. Why that mysterious object known as 3-Eye Atlas keeps changing color. Or why some people are having delusional episodes after extended conversations with AI. And those are just a few of them. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 crazy facts even Google can't fully explain. 25. There's been a surge in UFO sightings in Ireland. Ireland has experienced a steady uptick in unexplained sightings in the sky, and 2025 was especially busy. In early January, residents in Newry, Dublin, and Youghal all noticed bright lights in the sky before whatever it was suddenly shot away and disappeared. Several months later, in April, a person in Portobello described seeing a triangular shape marked by 3 lights and a faint beam shining downward. That same day, a separate witness in County Meath reported 2 glowing orbs that changed color before fading from view. As the year progressed, similar reports kept coming in, with people describing orbs, foggy lights, and hovering shapes that quickly vanished from sight. These sightings occurred across both busy cities and countryside locations, in all kinds of weather. So far, no official or scientific explanation has been offered. 24. Nobody knows who authorized the October 2025 spy balloon. Ever since the Chinese spy balloon made headlines in 2023, people have been paying a lot more attention to objects floating above the US. A few sightings popped up in 2024, but reports increased again during 2025. In October, a Stratolite balloon was spotted drifting over Colorado, adding to earlier sightings reported over Wisconsin in June and Alaska in August. News outlets suggested that they might have been research balloons, but not everyone is convinced. That leaves a pretty obvious question. Who's actually behind these balloons, and what are they collecting up there? The Colorado one made things even stranger because it never showed up on any public flight tracking platforms, so there was no way to see where it came from or where it was headed. 23. Someone also spied on Belgium. I promise, I'm not just talking about stuff in the sky today, but it's quite funny that people aren't using balloons, they're using drones. Last year, at the beginning of November, a group of unidentified drones showed up near a Belgian military base that's believed to store US nuclear weapons. Belgium's defense minister quickly said that the situation was deeply concerning. According to officials, the drones arrived in 2 waves. The first activity was spotted on a Saturday, followed by another round late the following Sunday night. Investigators believe that the first drones were testing the area's security radio frequencies. Then the bigger drones arrived, and officials said those seemed to be nothing more than a scare tactic. The defense minister later described the activity as espionage and hinted that he may already know who's behind it, but he refused to name anyone publicly. 22. Some Venus flytraps can't count. A Venus flytrap actually keeps track of how many times something touches it. When an insect brushes one of the sensitive hairs on the inside, the plant sends an electrical signal through the leaf. One touch isn't enough. But if another one happens within about a half a minute, the plant recognizes that it's probably dealing with real prey, and the trap closes almost instantly. That system works like a tiny biological counter. Each touch creates a signal and a calcium wave that the plant briefly stores as a short-term memory. The more times the trapped insect struggles, the more chemical responses kick in, eventually triggering digestion. Scientists understand the basic electrical signals behind the flytrap's counting system, but researchers are still trying to pin down exactly how the plant stores those signals as short-term memory, and why evolution produced this surprisingly precise prey counting strategy. Some Venus flytraps also stop counting properly when the traps are injured, aging, or under environmental stress. In those cases, the trap can still move, but the normal signal counting process no longer works the way it should. 21. People are having AI delusional episodes. Every single one of us has had contact with an AI chatbot in some way or form. And for most of us, the biggest danger is usually getting the wrong information. Isn't that right, Gemini?
risks actually go much deeper than just hallucinations or information.
Great. That's why people know it's advisable to do a little bit of fact-checking. But something else has now started making headlines. Chatbots are built to be conversational and supportive, which means they often mirror what the user says. If someone expresses a strange idea, the AI might respond in a way that sounds validating rather than skeptical. Psychologists say that kind of feedback can reinforce beliefs, so much that, in extreme cases, it can turn into what some researchers started calling AI-associated psychosis. One of the most widely discussed incidences involved Jaswant Singh Chahal, who attempted to enter Windsor Castle with a crossbow in 2021. His court testimony later revealed that he had been having long conversations with a replica chatbot that appeared to support his fantasy that he was a Sith assassin. Since then, psychiatrists and journalists have documented other cases where people became convinced chatbots were sentient, revealing secret knowledge or guiding them towards some greater mission. 20. Someone is killing young men in Kashmir. In March 2025, Mohammed Sadiq got the kind of call no parent wants, but this one came with something even harder to process. His son, Shaukat Ahmad, who had been missing for about a month, had finally been found. The condition of the body raises serious questions. What made it even more unsettling was the timing. Just 3 days earlier, Sadiq had already been told that his older son, Riaz, had also been found dead. Both brothers had vanished around the same time. Their bodies later turned up in a canal roughly 6 miles from their home. Officials stated there was no indication of foul play, but the family rejects that completely. They believe the young men were tortured and murdered. The case drew international attention as more young men began disappearing in the same area, with some later found in canals as well. A third man who went missing with them, Mukhtar Ahmad Awan, is still unaccounted for. 19. Gus Lamont is still missing. If you haven't heard the name Gus Lamont yet, let me just say this list is gonna stay somber for a little bit longer. Gus is a 4-year-old boy who disappeared on September 27, 2025 from his family's rural property near Yunta in South Australia. His family says he was last seen playing outside around 5 in the afternoon. When they went to check on him shortly afterward, he was gone. After his disappearance, police, rescue teams, drones, and volunteers conducted a massive search of the countryside, but found no evidence explaining what happened. Authorities have since ruled out the idea that Gus simply wandered away, and the investigation has been upgraded to a major crime case. As of March 2026, nobody seems to know where Gus is or what could have happened to him. 18. Y-chromosomes are still a bit of a mystery. The Y-chromosome is one of the strangest pieces of human DNA. We've always thought it didn't do much besides determine biological. It was even described as a kind of genetic wasteland. But the more researchers studied it, the more unusual it started to look. Unlike most chromosomes, the Y doesn't swap genetic material with a matching partner during reproduction. Instead, it sort of folds back on itself and recombines using mirrored DNA sequences, almost like a built-in repair system. That strange process can help fix damaged genes, but it can also cause problems. Sometimes pieces of the chromosome get accidentally deleted, which can lead to infertility. What really caught scientists' attention, though, is how much the Y chromosome has shrunk over time. Over the past 150 million years, it's lost about 95% of its original genes, and some geneticists, including Jennifer Graves, have suggested that the human Y chromosome might eventually disappear altogether. 17. 3-Eye Atlas keeps changing color. In 2025, a NASA-funded telescope system called ATLAS spotted something unusual moving through our solar system. The object was later named 3-Eye Atlas, and according to some, it just might be the third visitor from another star system we've ever detected. Astronomers believe that it might have formed around a distant star and could be made of carbon dioxide ice, but not everyone sees it the same way. The astronomer Avi Loeb has pointed out that the object's path lines up unusually well with the plane of Earth's orbit. And according to him, that kind of alignment would be pretty unlikely to happen randomly. He's also noted a few other odd details, like the way the object's color keeps changing, the way its light behaves under polarization, and the fact that it doesn't show the kind of tail most comets do. Most astronomers disagree with his interpretation, but they admit that there are things about 3I Atlas we don't fully understand yet. Scientists are still trying to work out why its color changes, how long it's been drifting through interstellar space, and what kind of event launched it out of its original star system in the first place. 16. Whales and dolphins can sleep and stay awake at the same time. Yep, when these beautiful creatures go to sleep, they don't fully pass out the way most mammals do. Only one side of the brain switches off, while the other stays alert enough to keep the animal moving and breathing. Researchers call this unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. In simple terms, it lets them rest without completely losing awareness. The common explanation is that marine mammals need to stay conscious enough to surface for air. But that raises another question. A lot of other mammals spend their lives in the water, yet they don't seem to need this kind of split-brain sleeping. Which suggests this isn't just about breathing. There's something more going on there that we still don't fully understand. 15. James Garfield's assassination attempt was a 79-day fight for survival. After President James Garfield was shot in 1881, the country expected the worst. But surprisingly, he didn't die immediately. The bullet didn't hit any major organs, and Garfield survived for 79 days. During that time, doctors tried everything they could think of to locate the bullet and treat his injuries. Today, a lot of medical reviews suggest that Garfield might have survived if it wasn't for his doctors. Germ theory was still new at the time, and sterilization wasn't standard practice yet. So, all the attempts to find the bullet introduced dangerous bacteria into his body. Garfield eventually died from sepsis, and historians still debate whether the assassin actually killed the president, or if the medical treatment finished the job. 14. The Outer Hebrides hum is getting worse. Life in the Outer Hebrides is usually quiet. These remote islands stretch about 130 miles along Scotland's northwest coast and are home to around 28,000 residents. But on the Isle of Lewis, about 200 people say the silence is often broken by a low, persistent humming sound that no one has been able to explain. The Hebridean hum is said to be incredibly distracting and keeps people from sleeping, while others say it causes headaches or a strange vibrating sensation in their ears. The trouble is that no one's been able to figure out what's making it, and according to the locals, it's becoming louder and more constant these days. As you might expect, people have started coming up with their own explanations. Some think the hum might be coming from machinery at a nearby sewing plant or power grids. Others believe it could be a submarine operating somewhere offshore. One resident even said the sound reminds them of what the Earth itself might sound like if you could hear it turning. So far, though, none of these theories has actually been proven. 13. Something is causing skyquakes. Still on strange sounds, have you ever heard of a skyquake? Every now and then, people report hearing a deep boom or a strange metallic rumble echoing across the sky with no obvious source. Reports of these sounds have popped up in Argentina, India, Canada, Japan, and the United States, and they often seem to happen near large bodies of water. One of the earliest recorded cases came from New Madrid, Missouri, where residents described hearing what sounded like cannon fire before and during a powerful earthquake in the early 1800s. Different places even came up with their own names for the phenomenon. New Yorkers have long referred to similar sounds as Seneca guns, while in Japan they're known as uminari, meaning cries from the sea. Over the years, scientists have come up with a few possible explanations, including sudden changes in air pressure, gases escaping from lakes, distant earthquakes, or even aircraft passing overhead. 12. The 1939 City of San Francisco train disaster was caused by sabotage. In August 1939, a passenger train was traveling through Nevada when it struck a section of track near Harney that had been shifted out of place. Moving high speed, the train derailed violently, killing 24 people and injuring 121 others. Investigators soon found signs that someone had tampered with the rails on purpose. Tools were recovered from the nearby river, suggesting the saboteur had thrown them away after moving the track. The railroad company and federal investigators both later concluded that the disaster was caused by sabotage. Despite a reward and major investigation, no one was ever arrested or identified, leaving one of the deadliest rail sabotages in US history officially unsolved. 11. People keep disappearing in Antigua. When someone goes missing in a massive city, it's easy to understand how the trail might just go cold. But Antigua is a small island, only about 100 square miles, which makes its growing list of disappearances harder for locals to ignore. Over 100 people are currently listed as missing in the area. One of them is Hyacinth Gage, a 74-year-old woman who left home to visit a doctor and never returned. Volunteers searched large parts of the island but came up empty. Her daughter later explained that the only confirmed detail was that Hyacinth had given her bag to someone at the hospital. According to the family, police eventually asked volunteers who tried to keep searching to stop. Obviously, the disappearances have given rise to a lot of theories and include everything from criminal networks to accusations that the authorities aren't doing enough to solve the cases. 10. The Pentagon released very strange UFO videos. Between 2014 and 2015, Navy pilots flying FA-18 Super Hornets from the USS Theodore Roosevelt started noticing strange objects during training flights off the US East Coast. One of those encounters produced what's now known as the gimbal video.
Echo 6-1 Tango Project, over.
Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get...
Did you box moving target?
602.
No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at that, man.
For several years, the footage circulated unofficially, with the Pentagon refusing to say much about it. That changed in April 2020 when the Department of Defense confirmed the videos were real and publicly released them. The clips immediately reignited debate about what the pilots actually encountered, because the object seems to be able to hold position in strong winds and make sharp movements without visible wings or engines. 9. The giant Irish elk was bigger than any deer alive today. If you lined up the largest deer alive today, the Alaskan moose would look like the champion. But during the Ice Age, there was something even bigger walking around. The Irish elk, also known as Megaloceros, dwarfed modern deer species. At full size, it could reach about 7 feet at the shoulder, and its antlers were massive, sometimes spreading 12 feet wide. Those antlers alone could weigh around 90 pounds. The species once lived across a huge region from Ireland to Siberia, but the last known fossils date to roughly 8,000 years ago. Scientists still debate what pushed the species over the edge. Some think it might have had something to do with climate changes as the Ice Age ended, others with hunting by early humans, and some even wonder if the enormous antlers eventually became a disadvantage. 8. The Greeks also built a pyramid. When people hear the word pyramid, they usually think of Egypt. But Greece actually has one too. It's called the Pyramid of Ellinikon, located in Argolis, and it has puzzled historians for years. Some researchers have, controversially, suggested that it may date back to around 2720 BCE, which would make it older than the famous pyramids of Egypt. That date alone raises a lot of questions. If it really was built that early, how did the builders manage it with the tools available at the time? And what exactly was the structure meant for? Some historians believed it marked the site of an ancient battle, or served as a memorial for fallen soldiers. And despite all the theories, there's still no clear agreement on what it actually was. What do you think? Who built it? Why did they build it? And why does Greece seem to only have one pyramid like it? 7. A small group of Super-Agers age much slower than most humans. Super-Agers are people who make it into their 90s or even past 100. But what surprises researchers is how well many of them are still doing. Some still have sharp memories, stay active, and avoid a lot of the health problems that usually come with age. Scientists actually started noticing the phenomenon while studying places like Okinawa in Japan and Sardinia in Italy, where people live much longer than usual. Researchers suspect it's a mix of genetics, diet, daily activity, and strong community ties. But none of those explanations fully account for how resilient these people appear to be. Even with modern genetics and decades of study, scientists are still trying to understand why a small group of humans seems to age much more slowly than the rest of us. My great-grandma lived to 103, and her daughter, my grandma, lived to 93, 97, 90, 94. 6. No one knows what the Rohonc Codex actually says. There's a book sitting in Hungary that nobody has been able to read for more than 2 centuries. It's called the Rohonc Codex, and it's filled with hundreds of pages of strange symbols that don't match any known writing system. The manuscript contains 448 pages of text, along with a large number of illustrations. Based on the watermarks on the paper, historians believe the pages were produced sometime between 1529 and 1540, although the writing itself might be older. Plenty of people have tried to crack it over the years, including linguists and professional codebreakers. None of those attempts has produced a widely accepted translation. 5. Polymorphs can appear and disappear during manufacturing. You get a polymorph when the same chemical substance forms different crystal structures. The ingredients are identical, but the way the molecules arrange themselves changes, and that can lead to very different properties. What scientists still don't fully understand is what makes one of these crystal forms suddenly appear in the first place, and that became a real problem during the production of the HIV drug ritonavir. Early batches of the medication used what scientists call Form 1, which worked perfectly well. Then, during manufacturing, a different crystal structure called Form 2 suddenly began appearing. Because it was more stable, it started replacing the original form. The new crystal structure dissolved differently, and production had to be halted while scientists figured out what was happening. 4. Sound waves arrange sand into perfect geometric shapes. The effect was first demonstrated in the 18th century by a German physicist named Ernst Chladni. He sprinkled sand on a metal plate and then ran a violin bow along its edge. As the plate vibrated, the sand shifted around and suddenly formed clean lines and shapes across the surface. Today, those patterns are known as Chladni figures. What makes them so fascinating is that each frequency creates a completely different pattern. Change the sound slightly, and the sand rearranges itself into a new design. Researchers understand the basic physics behind it, but the exact way these complex shapes emerge from simple vibrations is something scientists continue to study. 3. Herculaneum had gender-based diets. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE destroyed several Roman towns, including Herculaneum, which ended up buried under about 65 feet of volcanic ash. While tragic for the people living there, the disaster preserved an incredible amount of detail about daily life in the ancient city, and scientists studying the isotopes in the bones and teeth of the residents have revealed what kind of food people ate over the course of their lives. It also came with a strange mystery. In this case, the results showed that men and women in Herculaneum were not eating the same things. The men tended to eat more seafood and grains, while the women ate more dairy products, fruit, vegetables, and meat from land animals. So, what was going on here? Did men have easier access to luxury foods like fresh seafood? Or was it simply that many of them worked in fishing and ate what they brought in? Who knows? But it is certainly interesting. 2. One of Portugal's richest treasure ships sank and was never recovered. During the late 1500s, Portugal was sending ships back and forth between Europe and Asia, carrying enormous amounts of cargo. One of those ships was the Cinco Chagas, a large Portuguese sailing vessel built in Goa. It set off on its first major voyage in 1593, loaded with goods from the east. The following year, however, the ship ran into trouble near the Azores during a naval battle known as the Action of Fayal, and sank during the fighting. What makes the story so remarkable is the cargo it was carrying. Historical accounts suggest the treasure on board could be worth as much as $20 billion today. Despite centuries of searching, the wreck has never been located. 1. A young humpback whale was discovered up the Amazon River in 2019. Scientists still aren't completely sure how it happened. In February 2019, people on Marajó Island near the mouth of the Amazon came across something nobody expected to see there: the body of a young humpback whale lying along the riverbank. Humpback whales travel huge distances during their migrations, but they normally stay out in the ocean. Seeing one inside the Amazon system, especially at that time of year, immediately puzzled marine biologists. The whale was a calf and had no obvious injuries, which ruled out several of the usual explanations. The leading idea is that the young whale somehow became separated from its mother and was pushed inland by strong currents near the river's mouth. Once it drifted into the mangrove areas, it may have become trapped and too weak to get back out. And that's a wrap. Whales in the Amazon. Can you imagine? It's really sad, but I wonder if it happens more often than we think. Now, before you go, please drop me a comment and tell me of any other great facts Google can't explain. I'd love to know about them. And you might just give me a few ideas for the next list. And if you're ready for another bunch of facts, go watch our related video, 25 Strange Facts You Definitely Didn't Learn in School. There's actually a fascinating reason people in old photographs rarely smiled. That link is going to appear right here any second. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly couldn't do this without any of y'all. And I'll see you again next time, but only if you like, share, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Otherwise, maybe I'm not coming back. I don't know.